The views and opinions expressed by the participants on this show are not necessarily those of Stewart Information Services Corporation, Stewart Title, or Stewart Insurance. Before you make any investment, you should seek the advice of your investment advisor or attorney.
Whether you're a real estate broker, realtor, homeowner, buyer, or seller, everything matters when it comes to real estate. This is Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Stewart Title's Bill Knapik and guests open the door to what really matters in owning, buying, and selling real estate. And now, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title, brought to you by Stewart Insurance. Here to inform, entertain, and inspire, Bill Knapik.
Welcome to the show. It is Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Bill Knapik, and today we have a very interesting show, especially if you have a property that you want to sell. It may be distressed. It may not be. You may be distressed. You may not be. All those things will be thought-provoking right here on this show, number 532, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. So let's begin and talk with Brian Arigbu. His company is called Wonder US Property Group. So, Brian, let's tell people the company is called Wonder US Property Group, and let's tell people what you do right here in Houston.
Yeah, so we're a real estate investment company, so we help sellers that have distressed properties or may be in distressed situations where a standard listing with a realtor probably is not a fit.
So that's a good way to put it, I think. So other than a standard listing, this is where your company comes in, and let's say, give us an idea of the type of properties you're looking for. When you say distressed, okay, so first there's the distressed property, then someone that, or a family that might be in a challenging situation. So first of all, as far as the property goes, what are we calling a distressed property?
Perfect. So I'll give you a few examples. So let's say that the property needs work. You may have a foundation that needs repair, roof may be leaking, wood rot, and in this situation, the seller is not in a position to invest money into the property, or they're in a situation where, they don't have it. So this is a distressed situation where the property will not qualify for typical funding from, let's say, FHA or conventional, and we just make it easy so we can buy it as is and save them the headache.
So theoretically, I'm thinking if I have this type of property and I sell it to your company and you'll pay cash, I'm
Correct.
assuming once a price is agreed upon. So when that happens, the beauty for the person selling the property, they don't have to worry about fixing it up or
Correct.
calling people, getting estimates, and they're already maybe in a tough situation, so they could go on to the next chapter and fix whatever's happening in their lives, whether it's in their real estate life and otherwise. So
absolutely. So we offer speed and convenience. Typically they would go through a realtor, so they won't have to pay any realtor commissions. They don't have to worry about showings like inside people coming in and out the house. It's just a speedy, quick transaction. And typically, if the title is ready and everything is good with no liens on the property, we can close as soon as 48 hours. Yeah,
it's pretty quick.
Yeah, very quick. We've actually done transactions in 24 hours if everything was, at the title company.
Well, even a week or two is pretty good.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point is you help the person and help the situation quickly. All right, so the property we've described, a distressed property.
Correct.
And then there are people that are in challenging situations, and I'm going to guess one of them would be they don't have enough money to stay in that certain property.
Correct. So other situations, either they don't have money to stay in the property. Divorce is very common. Maybe someone inherit a property they don't want. Maybe they're in another state and they inherit a property and they just want to liquidate the property. So in a situation like this, typically a seller is open to giving up, sacrificing price for speed and convenience. They just want something easy, a no-hassle sale. So those are the other type of situations where we come in that we add value.
And certainly people listening right here in Houston, Texas, big broadcasting area, but there's also people on the internet listening. But here in the Houston area, I'm assuming this is where your company is, but give us an idea geographically the area that you're serving and helping people.
Right. So we're in Pearland. Typically, a lot of our deals are on the outskirts, so in the suburbs. And we do a lot of things in the gentrifying areas like 3rd Ward, 5th Ward.
And for people outside of Houston, that's inside the loop.
Yeah, the
pretty
inner
much
city
to the
loop.
center of the town.
Correct.
Of our big 4th largest city town, right?
Right.
How do you find these properties, Brian?
Yeah, so we have a team that's usually on the street, so they're driving through neighborhoods and they see distressed properties that may look abandoned, boards on windows, overgrown grass, and typically we will skip trace or find the contact of the owner. We'll call them directly, see if they're interested in selling the property. That's one way. I'm sure you've seen signs that say we buy houses. We haven't done that marketing channel in probably about 6 years, but people in the same line of business, that's one of the ways they reach out. And Google Ads. So if you search in a Google search, sell my house fast, we're typically a website that will come up. So those are some of the ways that we reach our avatar.
It sounds like you have a team.
Oh, yeah. You can't do much without a team.
I'm picturing that here are neighborhoods.
Uh-huh.
The people are in cars. We see people every day driving around for various reasons, going to work, school, and all these things. But there are people out looking for distressed properties, and there are telltale signs. That's what's interesting.
So most of our leads come from referrals. So it may be a realtor friend that they know of a client that maybe their property already been on the market. It's been on the market for 4 months and it's not selling.
That happens, yeah.
And they've dropped the price, and there's no more room to drop the price unless the seller is coming out of pocket. And so, sometimes they might get stuck, like, what do we do here? And that's a situation where we help people as well. They may pass that lead over to us, and we may have a solution that maybe doesn't work for, a typical listing. It may be other people that hear about a friend or a family member that is looking to get rid of a property, but they don't want to fix it up or they don't want to wait very long. They just want it fast. So we get referrals like that.
I'm thinking of something that just happened, and this may be some homes that you're already working on, but here we had the hurricane go through, and there may have been people that maybe they didn't even have insurance, or their insurance lapse, or even putting that aside, they may have had damage where they just don't want to fix it.
Right.
You'll buy that property? Absolutely.
I'll give you a situation that's pretty common that just happened. So we have a couple. Relationship is great, everything. They purchased a property in a rural area. Mud taxes come in. It increases their payments for about $1,000 a month. They no longer can afford the property. They're not behind on payments, but they feel like they're slipping very, very quickly. Other properties in that area are staying on the market 4 or 5 months. They don't have much equity to sell, pay the realtor. A situation like that, we offer other options like taking over on mortgage payments, right? So, they don't fall behind. So that's kind of like another scenario, allowing them to get immediate mortgage relief from that payment. Or someone may have moved to another property and now they're paying 2 mortgages, and it gets ugly really quickly. So
sounds like I'm thinking about the volume right now, and I think you must do. If this is your business, you're probably thinking, well, one, how many of these properties? There must be enough you have a business,
absolutely, yeah,
to support it. But how many properties are like this? I mean, generally speaking, how do you even quantify that? Here it is again, the 4th largest city, so there must be a lot of situations.
Yes, thousands of properties.
No shortage.
Yeah, no shortage. Like I said, it's 4 to 10% of the population. A lot of properties, you go in some neighborhoods and there's just abandoned property. So here's how I like to say it, Bill. No one's exempt from life on all aspects, from all economic classes. You have divorce, you have old sickness, tired landlords. You have tragedy, and no one's exempt, no matter their income, their level of success. And so when life happens to everybody, some people don't have as many resources to fix the situation and keep the property, and immediate relief is the best option.
Very well put. Which leads me to ask, Brian, of all the things you could be doing in life, and certainly in the real estate profession, there are so many things. How did you get into this niche market?
Well, after college, I was a high school teacher, and I taught high school biology and chemistry for about 4 years. Then I started working in the refineries. I worked at ExxonMobil, things like that. And I just wanted a little more freedom and flexibility. And as I did my research, it kept bringing me back to real estate. Seeing the people that was involved in real estate, I said, if they could do it, I think I could do it too. So I started around 2014. At that time, I had a little money. I invested everything I had left, which is a few $1,000s at that time, and got a mentor right after my honeymoon. Came back and never looked back. So while I was teaching, I was buying like real estate. I would save my money and I would buy houses on the side. And once my rental income was enough to replace my job at the time, I took a leap of faith and I quit my job. And I started as a realtor with Keller Williams at first. I did that for a year and I was like, I don't want to be a realtor. I want to be an investor. So since then, we built the team, started buying more real estate, started learning how to flip houses, and 500 plus transactions later, full-time investor for about 5 years, a little over 5 years now.
We're talking with Brian Erigbu. The company is Wonder U.S. Property Group. Brian, before we close this segment, what else do you want people to know about what you're doing?
You know, if you have a situation that you feel like is not suitable for your typical listing, maybe the market is moving too slow for you, maybe you don't have enough equity to be able to pay out commissions, or maybe you just don't want a bunch of in and out, as far as showings in the house.
You want a quick sale.
Yeah, reach out. If you have a house you're looking to sell, you want it easy, you want it fast, just reach out. And if we can't buy it, we'll definitely point you in the right direction.
We want to embellish. It doesn't have to be distressed, right?
It does not have to be
distressed. It could be beautiful.
The last few houses that we have purchased, have been in excellent condition. There were new builds a few years ago, but the homeowner just can't afford them. And they can't afford to sell it traditionally. So.
And in this case, again, they wanted something fast, cash, and move on to their next thing. Brian Erigbu, Wonder U.S. Property Group. Brian, let's tell people how to reach you.
Yes, if you want to reach out, 409-553-3879. That's my personal cell phone number. Again, that's 409-553-3879. We look forward to helping anyone that's looking to sell a property.
Brian Erigbu. Brian, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Bill.
As we continue, let's talk to Dana Newell. Her company is called 316 Realty Group. Dana, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Doing great. And we want to tell people also, go to stewart.com/radio where you can see the show and the show archives and Dana's beautiful orange jacket sizzling right here on the YouTube video. So, Dana, let's tell people about your company, 316.
We are a small group of our group is 316 Realty Group. We're a small group. We have a lot of years experience within our group, and we are all over Texas. Our brokers are in Dallas and Waco, so we do a lot all over the state of Texas, and we have several agents in Houston.
And as far as, let's say, your last, 20 transactions, 10 or 20 geographically, where have you been here in the Houston area?
LaPorte, Deer Park, Mount Bellevue, Beach City.
And let's tell people, in case they're listening from afar in another state on the internet or something, what part of Houston are those little cities?
More east.
So we're going to say east, southeast, or pretty much just east, right?
Pretty much just east.
So as far as the economic drivers on the eastern part of Houston, what are the places where people work, and what are the things that bring people to that part of our city? Most
of the people in our areas are refinery workers, and so most of them work at the plants, and that's why they live in the area that I usually sell in.
And as far as real estate, we know there are changes as this show will be broadcast. I know buyers and sellers alike, certainly the real estate community, we've been talking about these changes for months now. But let's say a person's out there, and whether they're in the eastern part of Houston, wherever, there are changes, and I want to buy a property. What are the things that we should know as potential buyers about what's happening right now in the real estate world that might be different from when we bought a home a year or even a month ago?
Well, now that we're having some changes in our rules, buyers have to or may have to pay the buyer's agents, whereas before the seller paid the buyer's agent. It's always been negotiable as far as commissions are concerned, but now the sellers have the right to not pay any commission to the buyer's agents. That's up to them, and if they don't, then the buyer will have to pay their buyer's agent, and that would be negotiable between the buyer's agent and the buyer.
So the thing that is the same is that typically, and again, we're going to put the disclaimer, everything years ago and from here on is negotiable.
Yes.
But what usually happens in a real estate transaction, the seller gets money or gives money to the person that's marketing the property.
Yes.
And then the agent that's the buyer's agent gets some money for helping the buyer, right?
Usually the seller pays both.
The seller pays both.
Yes.
But now that might be a little different where the seller doesn't pay the buyer's
Correct.
agent,
Correct.
but the buyer, I hope you're all following along,
Mm-hmm.
the buyer may have to pay separately the buyer's agent. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that would mean that they would have to come with an extra 3% to buy a home as opposed to where they didn't have to have that extra money. And it's hard for first-time home buyers to have that extra money to pay their buyer's agent.
So I think that could be an issue as things iron out or play out initially and everybody gets used to it.
Yes.
But also I'm thinking there might be an element of confusion too.
It's very confusing, especially for buyers, especially buyers that have bought before, that this wasn't an issue and now they may
I could
have
see
to
someone saying, well, why do I have to do that?
Right, and
Right.
they do. So hopefully, I've been doing this for 20 years, and so hopefully things will kind of stay the same, and sellers will pay, and we won't have to go through as much as it seems like we will.
So, and the good, like any change, it'll be easier as we go
Yes.
forth. But right now, it's gonna be brand new, and you're in the real estate world, selling real estate for 20 years.
Yes,
So you've seen a lot of changes.
Yes.
Is this your favorite change?
this is my least favorite change.
There you go. I'm glad you heard it here first. A real live realtor, a
My
candid interview,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, and that it is exciting and fascinating to think of the scope of just 2 years. I mean, look how things have changed in 2 years.
Right.
But to think about 20 years, the things you have seen and other people that have been in the real estate profession for so
Mm-hmm.
long, I mean, that's one of the things you have to be good at to be in real estate, other than the million other things.
Yes.
You have to be good at change.
You have to be good at change. We change a lot, and everybody's different, and everybody has different personalities, and you just have to learn to work with it.
Now, let's say I'm a seller and we're in this new world of real estate. So as the seller, how do you counsel your would-be seller in this new environment?
I would tell my seller that I think maybe the old way is still okay. I would say to pay your buyer's agents, because your buyer's agents buyers may not have the money to pay you, and if you want your home to show, you probably need to pay your buyer's agent. You'll
the
have a lot
buyer's
more
agent's-
traffic.
Yeah, but the buyer's agent's not going to work for free, right?
Right.
So no one's going to work for free. So
Right.
people need to be compensated. But one of the changes and correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to make sure we tell people this. If you're a buyer, I'm understanding it's a law now that as the buyer, I have to sign a buyer's rep agreement.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yes, we have, before we can take you into a house, we have to have a buyer's agreement signed between buyer's agent and buyer.
And it wasn't always like that. We
Well,
could
you're-
always sign one.
Right.
But now it's a law, correct?
And compensation is put in the buyer's agreement where it didn't used to be that way.
So then, right. So a typical buyer's agreement before would just say that you're representing me,
Yes.
but there was no number there. There was no, it'll cost X dollars or
Yes,
X
that's
percentage.
correct.
But now it's a new day.
Yes.
It's now there. And it's your favorite change.
No, it's not my
Okay.
favorite
That's
change.
why I was excited for you. Just to,
No, it's
okay.
not.
And I bet you speak for a lot of realtors, especially those that have been around for a long time.
I think so. We all feel this way, and it's a big change, and it's very confusing. It's a lot of confusion, but I think through time it will work itself out just like everything else does.
Exactly. Dana Newell. We're talking with Dana Newell. The company is 316 Realty Group. So we'll get used to the changes. And indeed, the buyers, the sellers will get used to it. We'll all go down the road, live happily ever after, sell lots of real estate, all those things. But as far as the market right now, regardless of the mechanics and rules, how are you seeing the market on the eastern part of our city for buyers and sellers, Dana?
We're doing pretty well. Interest rates being a little high has slowed the market. House prices aren't coming down. Usually, if your interest rates are low, your house prices are high, and opposite. But right now, house prices are kind of staying at the same, and the rates are a little higher. So the market's a little bit slower, but things will pick up. We're just at a slow time.
Are you seeing, as far as listings, when someone lists a home in the east of Houston, and again, let's itemize a few of those cities.
LaPorte, Deer Park, Beach City, Mount Bellevue, Pasadena.
There you go. So, and that is a world those listening outside of Houston and even in Houston, a lot of petrochemical activity, Mount Bellevue, there's storage, there's all those things. So, but when someone puts a listing or goes to you for a listing and they're leaving Houston, usually what is the reason they leave? What do you run into?
Most of my clients are retiring and moving or job change, but most people don't. I don't have a lot of people that leave the area. They usually just move. They stay. And mainly because they're at the chemical plants and they don't leave till they retire.
Yeah, I ran into a couple people over the weekend that were talking about leaving. One was going to go to Tennessee, but they were leaving because of the heat. They said, it's never been this hot before, and I can't take it anymore. Yeah.
I haven't heard that, but I've had a lot of clients move here. I have more that move here than that leave.
So do people find your company from other states and they reach out to you to find properties here in the Houston area? Run into that?
I'm sure they do. I don't really have that. Mine is more 100% referral. I do a lot of referral.
So being in the business 20 years, people know to call Dana Newell.
Yes.
Right.
They know, yes. They better call me.
Exactly. Let the word go forth. You better call Dana for help in buying and selling property. Now, let's go back 20 years. Before being a real estate professional, what was your profession?
I was a stay-home mom.
Stay-at-home mom. How many children?
I have 3 boys and 3 stepsons.
How about that? All boys?
All boys and 9 grandchildren.
That's a lot.
It is. It's wonderful. And my first grandchild was a girl, so it was really wonderful.
Actually, you have almost a built-in network for buyers. You have a lot of potential to work within the family and just make money there.
And most of my business came from my kids. I was really involved in their sports when they were young, and that's where most of my businesses came from.
That's fascinating. Well, Dana, before we close this segment, what else do you want people to know about what you're doing?
I just want everyone to know that things are going to be a struggle for a little bit, but they'll come back to normal. And if you need any help buying, selling, leasing, and I also do commercials. So
now more than ever, it's important to have a top-notch real estate professional like Dana Newell.
Yes.
No doubt about it.
No doubt.
Let's tell people how to reach you, Dana.
You can reach me at 281-923-7788. And my email is Dana, D-A-N-A, Newell, Realtor @gmail.com. 281-923-7788.
Thank you so much, Dana.
Thank you.
Let's talk to Zach Williford. His company is called Net Worth Realty. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Great to be here.
Well, here you are. Net Worth Realty. Sounds like a lot of money's involved here for some reason. But in the meantime, let's tell people what Net Worth Realty does.
Sure. Net Worth was started in 2008, and they're one of the largest purveyors of distressed properties in the nation. We've got 22 offices across the nation. It's just an investment brokerage.
And you're nationwide, so it's going to be fascinating to talk to you about the different kind of distressed properties around the nation. But you're based right here in Houston, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I office out of the Woodlands.
So let's tell people, as far as you are looking for distressed properties all over the country, and for as far as your experience, as you're based in Houston, do you just stay in Houston or do you go anywhere else with your company?
As a senior acquisitions agent, I stay directly in the greater Houston area.
So when you talk to others that are around the country, I guess you all have meetings and things.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you're hearing about that's interesting to you that might be different than what's going on here in Houston? Because it is fascinating to know what's going on everywhere.
Well, I will say that Houston is its own economy. So it's interesting to hear how the stories from different parts of the country don't always transfer to Houston, because we have a much larger diversified economy here. And what affects other parts of the country doesn't necessarily always affect us here in Houston.
Well, not only that, compared to other parts of the country, I think there are other places where people are moving to, but we are one of the cities and states that people are coming to, so thus that volume has to affect what you're doing in your business.
Certainly, yes. It's great to be able to turn around some of these distressed properties for more inventory, because there's a shortage of inventory in Houston. And one of the things about being an investment brokerage is we can provide more opportunities for more people to be here.
And let's tell people how you define investment broker.
Mm-hmm. So an investment brokerage is a company that buys these distressed properties that, that are divorce situations, storm damaged houses, something like that, that aren't going to qualify for a traditional mortgage. And what we do is we pay cash for them and turn around and flip them or rent them, whatever makes sense as far as the numbers go. And the opportunity for the seller is that we can do it quickly and we can do it with cash.
And they get their cash.
Yes, sir.
And move on.
Correct.
To the next chapter.
That's right.
And then anyway,
they can better themselves.
They can do, exactly. So what determines, or what are some of the things that you consider as in your company that determines whether you flip it or whether you rent it?
It's all based on the numbers. I mean, if it makes sense that there's enough equity and profit there to flip it, that's probably the first thing we look at. Now, if there's just not quite enough equity to turn around and flip it on the market, we'll look at rent rates and make sure it cash flows, and then we'll just rent it instead of flip it.
So it sounds like, again, there's a whole team of people that are supportive to help get this all done.
We have 10 to 15 agents per office, and there's 4 offices in Houston.
And as far as Houston goes itself, about how many, do you have an idea about how many homes? I mean, is it public knowledge about how many homes do you buy in a month?
In a month, anywhere from 30 to 50. So we can close anywhere from 400 to 600 houses a year in Houston.
That's a lot of houses.
Yes, sir.
And then these homes, if your company didn't handle it, these would be homes that people would try to sell via realtors and putting up a sign and that sort of thing.
They could try. A lot of times it's not going to work very well because there's not going to be a lot of buyers that are going to buy the type of houses that we buy.
Again, they're distressed in some way or another, but also I'm going to guess too, if someone has a home that's nice but they want a quick sale, correct, and your number's right, you'll do that as well.
For sure. Yeah, if they need to move somewhere real quick and just need to be out of it, then we can make that happen as well.
And here in Houston, as you know, how long have you lived here?
About 7 years.
All right, so you only have to live here half a year to know this, and that we get a lot of rain, we get storms, and all that, and that has an effect on what you're doing, I'm guessing.
Yes, it does.
In certain cases.
And, I mean, I hate to say it because I hate to see people in bad situations, but it does create opportunities for us to buy more houses. And when that happens, a lot of sellers are probably looking at selling anyway. It just gives them the one extra bump that they need to move on to a better situation.
Yeah, well, I sold a distressed property back at Hurricane Harvey.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you this, I don't know that I lost money because I had flood insurance, mm-hmm, but I sure didn't make any. And when it came time for the investor to buy my home, mm-hmm, within 6 weeks, 7 weeks, I was glad to get the money and get on and say, I don't want to have to do another thing to this distressed house.
We've probably bought about 20 houses this month that had trees fall through them.
Oh.
And our offer, along with what they're getting from insurance, they're walking away with more than they would if they were to fix it up and try to put it back on the market.
And not only that, I do know this, there are also tax consequences that are in your favor, as bad as it is to go through these disasters and disastrous situations to fall upon your home. No pun there.
Yeah,
you
right.
Like that, how the tree. So it's bad enough.
Correct.
However, there are remedies in places like your company, mm-hmm, tax considerations, and then the fact that we can move on.
Certainly, yeah. There's several different opportunities to look at.
I like when things have a happy ending,
right.
Zach.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
That's right.
We're help people.
Well, and isn't it good that there's companies like yours that do this? Because, I mean, it's fascinating in this real estate world that we live in Houston and beyond, mm-hmm, that there are so many different remedies for things, and that people have figured these things out.
Correct. Yep.
It's
great to work with realtors and title companies because they'll call me with these situations, and that's where I get most of my leads. Is they've got people in distress.
Well, and let's explore that too. As far as your leads, you get referrals, mm-hmm, as you mentioned. People within the real estate communities, like Stewart Title and others, might say, "Hey, Zach, call this person or that." Mm-hmm. What do you do? Do you do anything in terms of marketing? Of course, right now you're on the radio talking to millions of people. Correct. But outside of that,
Facebook does a lot for me. I get a lot of leads from that just because people see the type of properties that I post on Facebook. But it really just being there at events and talking to realtors that may have something that comes up. is where I get the majority of my leads, or talking to title reps that have deals that bust out. And that's where I get the
depending on the
majority.
reason it busts out, it could be a reason someone needs you.
Yep. When a seller has to get it sold because they've already closed on another house, here I am.
The other thing I'm thinking, I was looking online at real estate in some high dollar areas like Half Moon Bay, California, and I bet there are distressed properties that might be $1 million.
Right. There's distressed properties everywhere.
And they looked really bad,
Right.
but yet $1 million, we can buy something really nice here, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it makes a big difference when you go from even the Heights to, the Spring. It's a huge difference. You may have the same house, but as far as the price point, it's completely different.
Totally different. So how did you get in this profession, Zach?
Well, I knew the owner of Net Worth Realty in a former career of mine. I used to guide hunts for a living, and he was one of my clients, and I got to be real good friends with him. Knew his integrity. He's a great guy, and whenever I decided to leave that, he asked me if I wanted to do this and help people doing this, and I said, yeah, sure, let's give it a shot.
Where did the company start? Here in Texas?
Here in Houston, yes, sir.
So it started out as how many years ago?
Back in 2008 is when they started.
That's not that long ago.
Yeah, the Big Short period.
Exactly. So 2008, here's a guy that starts a company doing what you're doing, but it starts here. How did it go from a Houston company to being all over the nation?
Well, that's more of a question for the owners.
But I mean, from your perspective.
From my perspective, it was all about the integrity of the company, of coming to the table with an opportunity for sellers. We're not always the greatest opportunity for a seller, but we are an opportunity. And whenever you're honest with people and you tell them, look, this is what I can do for you, if you want to go that route, then we can make it happen and we can do it quickly. So sometimes there's better options, and I'm more than willing to help them with those options. But, I think that's what really built this company, is the integrity and honesty of the company.
And it sounds like the person that built the company, and I have no idea, I'm just speculating, but they had a model that they put together. It worked here in Houston, and just like any other company that expands, hey, let's try it in Arizona.
Correct.
In
Nobody has
California.
done what we've done. Nobody can do what we do just on the scale that we do it, just because of the business model that they set up. It's pretty awesome.
Pretty interesting. So what do you think the future is, how this plays out here in the next, year or so?
And
How do you all project what's going to happen?
I think there's going to continue to be an increase in market value and prices, especially if the interest rates drop. I think we're going to get another bump, and another buyer's frenzy, which is going to keep the values up, but it's also going to create other opportunities on the flip side of that. So it's only going to get better, in my opinion. There's going to be some bumps and obstacles along the way that we have just now come to find out, but it's all going to pan out.
Well, I'm looking at you right now, Zach. Everybody, he is smiling, but he also has that smile that says, I know something you don't know. But that's okay. I'm sure you do. Zach Williford, Net Worth Realty. Before we close the segment, Zach, what do you want people to know?
My number is 903-575-7969, and you can get me on my email at zach@networthhouston.com.
What's the website?
Website is Net Worth Realty USA.
networthrealtyusa.com?
Yes, sir.
How about that? And the phone number?
903-575-7969.
Thank you, Zach Williford.
Contact Stewart Insurance to determine if your business is properly insured. Visit stewartinsurance.com or call 866-798-2827. Visit stewartinsurance.com or call 866-798-2827.
Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title would not be possible without our partner, Stewart Insurance. With a focus in real estate and a special focus on real estate brokers, Stewart Insurance creates insurance plans to address the risks facing our industry today. They invest a significant amount of time helping real estate broker owners offset and manage their risks. Here he is with Stewart Insurance, John Bramlett. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Always a pleasure.
You're not distressed, are you?
Not at all.
Neither am I. That makes two of us. Yeah. And last I checked, my property was not distressed, so I'm feeling really good.
Good.
What have you brought?
As long as you're feeling good, that's all that really matters.
We could just keep sailing right along.
Absolutely.
And move right to the important topic of insurance. So here we are. What do we have today?
We're talking hurricanes today.
Oh,
We're talking hurricanes.
it's distressing, but go ahead.
Well, it is, but there's some things that we can do that, regardless of what happens, we can make the best of it. So the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration came out with their mid-hurricane season report, and they're still pretty bullish on the fact that they think it's going to be a heavy hurricane season for this year. Yes, so they're saying that they still feel like there's a 90% that it's going to be a 9% chance it's going to be above normal for this year. They think there'll be somewhere around 24 named storms. Still, and of those 24, 8 to 13 will be hurricanes. So we've had 2.
Oh boy.
So 8 to 13 would be hurricanes, and of those 8 to 13, 4 to 7 may be majors. So Category 3 or higher. So one thing to keep in mind, and some of our insurance partners have done a really good job about sharing some thoughts about if you do go through a hurricane, what are some things you can do from a post-hurricane perspective to make at least a bad situation maybe not as bad? So things like, if you have to be evacuated, wait till they say it's okay to come back before you come back. I know that we're anxious to get back and see what damage there was or was not to the home, but safety ought to be first and should always be first. So what are we doing? Let's wait till they say it's okay to come back to the neighborhood before we return. One that we really had to deal with a lot, both with the derecho in May and with Hurricane Beryl in the greater Houston area, was down power lines. To really be careful about those and be aware where they are and avoid them at all cost. What are you doing to protect your property further from damage? So, for example, if you have broken windows before the repairs are able to be made, at least maybe boarded up. So you do a couple of things there. You minimize the chance of any additional damage, but you also minimize the chance of any looters that might come in. Make sure that you take photographs of all the damages that you can. Take photographs of whatever the damages are, both structurally as well as your contents. And as soon as you can, before any of the repairs begin to happen. So that way you've got some records for the insurance company and the appraisers about, showing them what was damaged. Keep all your receipts. So it's important to do that, to keep your receipts. So whether it be receipts for repairs, it could be receipts for food, it could be receipts for additional lodging. Maybe you were distressed and you had to move out of the home temporarily. Keep those receipts because that could potentially help with some support from the insurance company.
So many things to think about.
Well, it really is, but I think if we've talked about in the past having on a previous show, we had talked about having kind of a pre-hurricane plan. So where are we going to meet? What are we going to do? How are we going to react? Where are we going to go depending upon if we have to evacuate or not? All this does is just let's have a post plan. So what are we going to do if we are damaged? Make sure that we don't return until we're safe, that we make sure that we pay attention to what's going on around us. So it's not just down power lines, but if there's standing water, we don't need to be walking through that standing water because we don't know what's in it. So there could be some, sharp objects or downed limbs. Are we doing some things to protect our home once the damage has occurred? And then let's make sure that we're taking photographs to keep records and keeping records of all the receipts that we have.
Simply put, like the motto of the U.S. Coast Guard, which is Semper Paratus, always ready, always prepared, and like the Boy Scouts.
Be prepared.
That's
Scout motto.
It's so important throughout life in every category in terms of our homes, our families, all those things, safety. And that's right. One of the things you mentioned is so important is to have a plan. I mean, even on other an intruder comes in the home. What do you hear if you hear broken glass at 3 a.m? You have a plan. If you have a family, have a meeting. Always be ready because there's so many things that can happen. As someone said, life happens here.
Well, it does.
We've got to be ready.
And if, the NOAA is correct, we're looking at another potential 8 to 10 hurricanes. And of those, there could be 2 or 3 of those, it could be Category 3s or greater. So, again, if we're prepared and ready, we can at least minimize that downside. The other way that in and around hurricanes that I think folks can be prepared is if you don't have wind insurance, first take a look to see if it can be a peril that could be named as an endorsement to your current home plan, or to see if it is already a named in peril on your current home plan. If it's not, it's worth taking a look to see what that damage is, because that damage, there could be damage to the home that's caused by water, that the reason that it was caused was wind damage versus a traditional flood. So if the wind breaks it causes the window to break and the water gets in the home that way, then that would be the original cause would be the wind. So take a look at that. The other reason to take a look at that is that if you cannot get wind coverage through a traditional company, there is an option through the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association. And they work with 14 coastal counties in Texas, plus parts of Harris County, for kind of as a last resort. If you can't get wind coverage any other way, you can get coverage through TWIA. But they're talking about a 10% increase in their premium in 2025. So if we have a chance to go ahead and look at getting coverage now, that might help you at least minimize some of the costs going forward.
So are you saying that wind damage is not in a standard homeowner's policy?
Not always.
Sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not.
Sometimes not.
Yeah, and because we've seen a greater increase in the number of natural disasters that we have in Houston, there are some companies that are minimizing that. So again, it's worth taking a look at your plan. I mean, home insurance plans are just like fingerprints. They're all unique. You and I could live on the same street. We could live next door to each other. We could have the same house. We bought it at the same time, and we could have our home insurance with the same company, and your plan is going to be different than mine.
Wow. Because when Hurricane Beryl came through, I was ready for water, or was expecting water, but when I looked out of my home at 3 a.m, it was wind.
Yes.
Trees were moving around in a disturbing way. Fortunately, everything was okay, but it was the wind. And then also, I don't know if you were reading the same article I was. You may have been. The Texas A&M Real Estate magazine they send it. What's that called? Do you remember?
No.
Well, I just was reading it this morning, and as you're talking about wind, there are 2 different kinds of roofs, and I think it's called the hip roof, but the way wind moves versus, gable roof. But I think they calculate price depending on the roof, because wind will go over one roof, whatever that type is, easier than the other one. So I think they factor that in on the cost. But also, as a homeowner, you could factor that in when you look at your next house, like anyone's thinking about, I need to have this style of roof. But maybe, we want wind to move over the house, not disturb it.
Well, and that's
or tear it up.
And I think that's what we want to get across today is, one, not only be prepared for what might happen if a storm is coming so you can protect your family, but also have a plan in place post-hurricane for any potential damage that occurs to the home. And then it is worth spending some time and looking at your home coverage to see if wind is one of the perils that's covered in that home policy. And if it is, that's fantastic. See what type of coverage that is. If it's not, a couple things you can do, either seeing about having an endorsement added to that plan to add wind coverage, or potentially look at a different type of coverage from a different company, or if it's not available, then if you qualify, then looking at TWIA.
Fascinating. John, what else should we know?
Well, if you do want to be properly insured and understand whether you do have that coverage or not, do I have the appropriate water damage coverage for my home insurance? Is it actual cash value or replacement cost? Those types of questions. Is there going to be a named perils or an all perils policy? But you're not sure that you have that coverage, then come talk to one of our insurance advisors, because they'll walk you through, based upon your needs, what's a plan that makes the most sense. And being an independent property and casualty insurance broker, we have a variety of insurance companies that we work with to help families and individuals for their home, wind, auto, flood, investment property, as well as working with real estate brokers, realtors, property management firms, and independent title and attorney agents on their business insurance.
And John, with these how many hurricanes might happen?
Well, they're talking about we could have 24 named storms, in between 18 to 13 hurricanes.
And do they have names ready to go for these? I didn't like Burl. That was not a good name. I wasn't happy with that one.
Well, I'll be sure and reach out to the
Hurricane Society
and let them know that you were not happy with that, and ask them to reach out to you to get some suggestions. Maybe Hurricane Elvis.
That is a good one. Also, Hurricane Dana is right up there.
Hurricane Dana, okay.
So
maybe Brian and Zach as well.
There you go. We have great names. Call upon us, and
Yes.
we'll be ready for you. John, how can people reach you?
They can reach us at 866-798-2827. That's 866-798-2827. They can learn more about us at stewartinsurance.com or email us at stewartinsurance.com.
John, what if I'm in LaPorte, Texas? What number should I call?
I would call 866-798-2827.
Sounds good. John Bramlett with Stewart Insurance. Thank you, John.
You're welcome, Bill. Always a pleasure.
And now here she is, Jana McGuire. It looks like you were coming over. You couldn't wait, Jana. As always, we have top-notch business development people at Stewart Title, about 17 around the Houston area and all over the United States. Right here, we have 3. First, we're going to talk briefly to Jana McGuire. Jana, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bill. I'm here. I'm back.
Here you are. You were here last week. People love the Jana McGuire segment. Indeed. Let's tell people and remind them your office for Stewart Title is
Stewart Title, Clear Lake. And we're over off Space Center and Bay Area Boulevard.
no wind over there, is there?
None. Zero.
Zero wind. Buy a house in Clear
Yeah,
Lake
it's-
and close at Stewart Title.
And come close at Stewart Title in Clear Lake.
Jana, how can they reach you at your office?
Good phone number is 832-244-3439. And that's 832-244-3439.
And you have activities all the time.
All the time.
Educational.
Classes, CE classes, and non-CE classes that are just learning.
And CE means continuing education for those that don't know.
That's
and
right.
So stay close to Stewart Title business development people. Once again, the phone number for Clear Lake and Jana McGuire is
832-244-3439.
Thank you so much, Jana. And now, I know Hope is always on a spring, ready to jump in that seat. Here she is, Hope Moy. Once again, the Hope Moy segment, 2 weeks in a row, if I'm calculating right. Is that correct, Hope?
Yes, it's I'm here a lot lately.
It's
I like
awesome.
it.
We love it. And also, you're wearing the I Heart shirt, or you have a giant, it's almost like a Valentine's heart, which is the I Heart logo for the station we're on.
I dressed for the occasion today.
No doubt about it. Hope, what should we know about your 2 offices in?
So I am out of the Magnolia and Conroe offices, 1488 in Magnolia and 336 in Conroe. I have 3 escrow officers in Magnolia and 2 in the Conroe office. I would say combined experience between the 5 of them is probably hitting over 150 years of combined experience. So
That's
I think
amazing.
absolutely. I think that the most important part about knowing that is that you want to work with people that have the experience and the knowledge to get everyone to the closing table. I think it builds great integrity to work with escrow officers that have been in the industry for a long time.
Indeed. And not only that, as we had each transaction, and like John said, each insurance policy is different as far as coverages and real estate transactions, all the nuances. It's important to have the experience with the escrow officers, with people at Stewart Title, because they have to know so many things in these transactions because there's so many curveballs that are thrown at us all the time.
Absolutely. So you're working with fantastic escrow officers that have the experience backed behind Stewart Title, who's been open for 130 years.
130 years, a Texas company.
How could you go wrong and not
You can't
close
go
with
wrong.
Stewart Title?
And as a buyer, you can choose your title company. So know that when you talk to your realtor. Hope, how can people reach you?
Please call me at 346-224-1908, 346-224-1908.
I also want to make mention here, Hope, I see you on Facebook a lot. You look like you're having fun there, too.
Yes.
Just saying. Here she is, Andy Entwistle. That's right, another Stewart Title business development officer. And again, she was here not that long ago. Andy, like last week.
Yeah.
Do we have the whole same
maybe
team?
2 weeks ago.
I don't know. I'm losing
Right,
track.
yeah.
In the meantime, Andy, let's tell people about your office in
Pearland. So we are located southeast of Houston. I would say a good 20-minute drive down 288.
20-minute drive.
Yeah.
How many miles above the speed limit are you going to make that 20 minutes?
Like 10 to 15.
Oh, okay, but don't look. We won't tell them what kind of car you have, Andy Entwistle, right there in Pearland, about 10 miles from Apple Land, right? Or Orange Land, right?
Sure.
Where'd they come up with that name?
So
I love that.
Pearland, I think originally was called Figland, and the problem was they didn't have any figs. So they changed it to Pearland and planted a few trees.
You heard it first, right here.
Yeah.
It's never been said before. So, Andy, you two are doing tremendous work at Stewart Title.
We do. We have some continuing education classes. A few actually we had with Jana, and as well as some non-educational classes.
That's where you don't learn anything.
Yeah, you just have some fun.
Okay, sounds good. How can people reach you?
Our number is 281-412-6900. That is 281-412-6900.
Okay, once again, thank you, Andy. Brian, Eric Boo with Wonder U.S. Property Group.
What I would say is for homeowners that may be in a situation, distressed, the house or themselves, try to make a decision and get wise counsel quickly. What I find is it gets worse when people do not make a decision. For example, house is free and clear. They owe back taxes. They continue to wait, and the taxes increase. Now when they get to the closing table, let's say we go to Stewart, now they're getting less in their pocket because they allowed the taxes to eat up all of their equity. A house is abandoned, is vacant. They decide to wait to sell it. Now it gets vandalized. Now the property's worth less.
Getting worse. So act quick, write down your questions, ask the right questions, deal with the right company.
And explore all options.
Explore all options. You heard it right here, Brian. Eric Booth says explore all options in all categories of life. In the meantime, Wonder U.S. Property Group, how can we reach you?
Reach me at 409-553-3879. Again, that's 409-553-3879.
Thank you so much, Brian. And now she is back, Dana Newell with 316 Realty Group. Dana, welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Hurricane Dana, did you like the sounds of that?
I think I've been called that before.
You have?
I think so.
All right. In the meantime, Dana, before we close the show, what else do you want people to know?
I just want to let everybody know that we're starting some new things. I've got some new opportunities. I'm working with a partner with some people, and we're building new homes in Baytown. And then also to let people know that if you're buying a new home, use an agent. You need an agent to protect you if you're buying a new home. Don't think that the people that are working for the new builds represent you, because they don't. They don't protect you, and you need someone to protect you.
No doubt about it. A great real estate professional like Dana Newell. Dana, how can people reach you?
You can reach me at 281-923-7788. Again, 281-923-7788. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us, Dana. Zach Williford is here with Net Worth Realty, covering not the globe, but the United States, right, Zach?
Yes, sir. If you're a realtor that knows someone that has a property that they need to move quickly or is distressed, give me a call. We can pay commissions.
Paying commissions right there at Net Worth Realty. Zach, what's the phone number?
903-575-7969. That's Zach at 903-575-7969.
Thank you so much, Zach Williford. And thank you all for listening to Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. I am your host, Bill Knapik. That's right. Simply go to stewart.com/radio, where you can see and hear all the shows. The show archive is there at stewart.com/radio. Bill Knapik's your host, and together with John Bramlett, we bring you Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Check us out next week. More fun, more great information, and thank you for listening. At Stewart Title, we remain ready to help you with your real estate transaction right here in Houston or far beyond. Simply go to stewart.com to find the closest office. That's stewart.com. We would be honored to be stewards of your real estate transaction.